Zaku Baruch.
Hazakim Bruchim.
Je veux juste dire un Dvar Torah. So, yesterday's class, last night, I spoke about an idea of the two different names that we have during Chag Pesach. I mean, the Passover holiday has many names. More precisely, if we were to name some of them, would be Chag Pesach, obviously the one that everybody calls, Chag Matzot, that's in the Torah. Then there's also Chag Aviv. But as we know in the Torah itself, and that's the name we're going to be using when we say the bracha and the kiddush also, B'yom Chag HaMatzot hazeh. That's the way this Passover is called, this holiday is called in the Torah is Chag HaMatzot, the holiday of the matzot. But we know that amongst most people, the way we call this holiday is Pesach or Passover. Now, obviously, there's a meaning in each one of the names of the holiday. Last night in the class, I explained one meaning, and today I'm going to flip everything around. Because as we know, Shiv'im Panim La Torah, right? The Torah has at least 70 ways of explaining it, 70 different ways. So the holiday of Pesach, as we mentioned, has two names, is Chag HaMatzot and Chag HaPesach. Now, each one of them has an emphasis on another aspect of the Chag. There's two names, two different meanings, right? Chag HaMatzot represents a certain meaning, which is the revelation of God, the revelation of God's providence in the world. That's Chag HaMatzot. And I'll explain how we see it in the verses itself. And then we have Chag HaPesach, which represents the unique spiritual capacity of the Jewish people. That's what Chag HaPesach itself represents. So let's explain. If we explore a little bit of the Psukim, I think you'll agree with me that each one has a different emphasis, as we just stated. So Chag HaMatzot, God's providence, God's revelation in the world, and Chag HaPesach, it's the Jews' unique spiritual uniqueness and capacity. So if we look at the Psukim, at the verses of the Exodus from Egypt, God's sovereignty over the world was giving its most apparent and concrete manifestation. As we see that there's a very famous discussion in the Talmud that it says that there's an argument back and forth, when was the world created? One opinion says it was created in the month of Tishrei, just like we celebrate now every year Rosh Hashanah. And the other opinion says no, it was created in the month of Nisan. So obviously the question is, how can they have such an argument on something that's a reality? Either the world was created on Nisan or was created on Tishrei. It can't be both. So the simple explanation is that on Tishrei itself, the month of Tishrei, which is Rosh Hashanah, everybody agrees that the world was created. But the actual revelation of God, His ultimate revelation, His manifestation in the world, is only revealed during Pesach. Because we see that through the whole Chumash, God reveals Himself many times, but He reveals Himself only to individuals. He only reveals Himself to Abraham, and then He reveals to him to Yitzchak, and then to Yaakov. After that, He doesn't speak. He never speaks to anybody before that as a nation, right? So the actual revelation and the biggest manifestation of God in the world is during this holiday, this amazing holiday of Pesach, which is in the month of Nisan. So we see, thus our faith in God is what? Is fundamentally rooted in the Exodus. So the matzah symbolizes this aspect of our holiday. Why? Because we read it like we read in the Haggadah. The matzah that we eat, what do we see in the Haggadah? We say in the Haggadah, the matzah that we eat, what is the reason? Because our forefathers, though, did not have time to rise before the holy, supreme kings of kings revealed Himself to them and redeemed them. So here we see in the matzah itself the revelation of God. While they were preparing to leave Egypt, while they're preparing the matzah, they didn't have enough time. and then God reveals himself. So matzah representing the revelation of God. Now, the unique mission of the Jews and their destiny as a people, right? As I just mentioned, this revelation, this character as receiving this revelation as a people and receiving our mission in life if we want, right? As a people and not just a simple individual or a father of a family, the sons of Jacob, Bnei Israel, but Am Israel. This is expressed in the Paschal Lamb. This is expressed in the name of the Chag, which is Pesach, right? Because the distinction between the Egyptians and the Israelites, right, was conspicuous in all of the plagues, right? That the Egyptians were as the Egyptians were struck, and the Israelites were saved. What happened at the end? This culminated with the plague of the firstborn. So through the whole stages of the 9 plagues, and then culmination to the firstborn, the plague of the firstborn, when the destroyer struck the first Egyptian born in every household. And what happened? Hashem passed over Pesach, on the houses of the Israelites, the Jews. So from here, we see Israel's uniqueness, which is expressed through the symbolism of the Paschal sacrifices. These are the 2 names. These 2 fundamental principles of faith and Israel, not only as Israel, Jacob, or the son of Jacob, the son of Israel, but as a nation, are linked together, interdependent, right? Unlike the other nations, we see something very particular to Israel. Other nations are formed through human endeavor. The nation of Israel was forged through divine miracles and wonders at the times of the Exodus, right? For the purpose of receiving God's Torah. It's not just another nation. And this is something very interesting. I would like to open just a small parenthesis. We see that the identity of every nation usually starts by a country or a group of people that come together united, and they form a nation, and then they have their identity. It's interesting that the journey of the Jewish people was exactly the opposite. It starts with one individual and it builds up into a nation, and not the other way around. Most nations, even today, they form as a group, let's say, and then they have a land, and from that, every single individual has his own identity. But it starts from a nation into the individual, where the Jews was from Abraham into a nation of the Jewish people. The nation Am Segula, Vaitem le'Am Segula, is only at that time when we finally leave Egypt. So the Israel's status entirely depends on their connection with God. It's not just a nation that's created just by human endeavor. When Israel does God's will and makes God's name manifest in the world, they can earn all the blessings of the Torah. And if we pursue it in terms of the revelation of God's name in the world, what does that mean, God's name in the world? When God manifests his divine value on the earth. When we see that we act as humane, we act with people with moral and values, that itself manifests God's name on the earth. And that's completely dependent on us. And I know that unfortunately, I'm sure some of you are watching and following what's going on, that a lot of the Jewish communities today in Montreal, in the world, in Israel, religious Jews and non-religious Jews, as a nation, we've been trolled and people are blaming a lot of the things that, and it's very unfortunate that such a Chilul Hashem has happened, but we must continue and perceive that as long as we stay connected to Hashem and we do what is asked of us to do, to be a light unto the nation, right? This is part of the holiday of Pesach, right? As we just mentioned, that our uniqueness in the world as being as Shovas and a nation is connected directly to our connection to God and to the values of the Torah, and by that spreading and manifesting God's internal values to the rest of the world. and by so, not only doing good for us, but doing good for the whole nation. Because redemption, my friend, is not only a physical thing. Redemption is not just a moment where we are free just from slavery of leaving Egypt, but we become free also of a spiritual level, right? We become free of our temptations and all of our things that are against Hashem, God forbid. So redemption itself brings not only to the Jewish people, but ultimately bring a redemption to the whole of humanity by spreading the light and the values of the Torah through all the different generations. May we merit, all of us, every single one of us, to have this opportunity to Hashem, and God should bless us with only good things and good health for us, for all of you, for all your family, and all of humanity. God bless us all. Shabbat Shalom. Chag Sameach to you and to your family. Bezrat Hashem.
Shabbat Shalom.
Merci beaucoup.